Hello and welcome to our new vlog. This week we're going to be traveling to Washington Dulles. Yes, Washington Dulles again. We just returned from Washington Dulles about a month ago and we're heading back out. This time we're traveling for work and we'll follow up with some play. I'm going to keep it secret what that destination is going to be. But today we're going to be flying to London Heathrow. There we're going to connect to our British Airways flight to Washington Dulles Airport. This time, unfortunately, not in first class, but second best. We're traveling in business class, which is also very cool. As you can see, there was almost nobody there at check-in, so that was a breeze. We flew through security. They've got these new scanners where you can keep everything in your bag at Schiphol, which is very good. On the other side, there's plenty of shops here at Schiphol, nothing really special, other than, of course, some shops selling Dutch treats. Those who know Dutch food will know that it's quite paradoxal, really, Dutch food and treats, only joking. But also very interesting here at Schiphol is they've got a Rijksmuseum exhibition here, which is very nice to see. They've got some classic artworks in here, and of course you exit through the gift shop. We headed towards the new One World Lounge for a quick cup of coffee and enjoy the view there. Unfortunately, there was quite a queue there as we approached it. They are sharing the reception area with the Aspire Lounge, which is next door. And actually the queue was for the Aspire Lounge and not for the One World Lounge. But we still, of course, had to wait our turn. The lounge wasn't too busy. We were lucky enough to have a pair of free window seats. Well, actually almost all the seats were free at the window. It's a nice place to watch the action on the tarmac, on the platforms, and enjoy your coffee with. Unfortunately, as my wife was in the bathroom, I saw something drop from the ceiling out of my peripheral vision, and there was this little mouse just scurry along the floor. I shouldn't be scared, but that sort of scared me as I just really was surprised by it. I think Schiphol might have a little rodent problem there. Hopefully that's fixed by now. After a quick cup of coffee, which really wasn't that bad, it was time to head towards the gate. On our way to the gates, which is quite a little trek there, we were stopped by security. I never knew that security was doing this at Schiphol. I'd never seen it before, or we were stopped before. He had one of those drugs or explosive swipes, and he asked us where we connected from. Of course, our flight started here today, so he wasn't interested in us. Which means that basically they are randomly testing connecting passengers here. Probably a good thing. Yeah, didn't know that happened here. Today we are flying on a British Airways Airbus A380 CEO. CEO stands for current engine option. There's also an A320 Neo, which stands for new engine option. In business class on short-haul airplanes here in Europe, you will never see the 2-seat configuration like they have in the US and in other countries. Here they use a standard cabin and they block the middle seat. British Airways does have this option where they have a little table over the middle seat, which is actually quite handy, and I think they're the only ones doing that here in Europe. From an airline perspective, it is quite smart. They can sell as much business class seats as they want. Not as nice for the passengers who have to sit in the small seats. As you can see on this flight, I think I count 9 rows in business class. On the Amsterdam-London routes, I've seen even larger business class cabins and of course smaller. Parked next to us is an old bird, literally. It's a JetBlue A321 Neo that is now making a daily crossing across the Atlantic from Boston to Amsterdam and back to Boston. I haven't flown across the Atlantic or any actually long-haul flight on such a small airplane or relatively small airplane. I'm sure now the connection is here. I'll be doing it in the future, so stay tuned for that report.
We're pleased to have launched our free on-board Wi-Fi messaging service.
Good thing with British Airways is that even on a 45-minute flight like this one from Amsterdam to London Heathrow, you do get a meal, and they do serve special meals for those that need them. Of course, you have to pre-order them. I chose the roast beef with asparagus and tomato and a nice sauce. Dessert is some mousse, there is some chocolate underneath, and a bread roll. And I had a gin and tonic, well, 2 gin and tonics to wash it away with. The gluten-free meal was chicken, which was much moister than it looked, with actually a very nice curry-like sauce. The dessert was, well, I'll do a separate video on that dessert. And the bun, it's a vegan gluten-free bun, which is actually not really that bad. It would be nice if they could warm it up. Flight itself was good. It was very little clouds, so a nice view from the window. We did one circle in the holding pattern before landing at runway 9 left. The landing, however, was a bit rough. I think he had a bit of a floater, but he did get it on the ground eventually, and we all noticed that very well in the cabin. If you listen carefully, you can hear they're shutting down one engine, which is always a bit ominous in the sense that our gate wasn't ready, so we had to do a bit of waiting here. We had hours before our connection, so we got to relax and do a bit of plane spotting. But I do believe that, you know, if you got a tight connection, these moments are always very anxious as you want to get back on track to your next flight. So today we've got a 3-hour layover, I think. We're connecting here, so our luggage is already going through, so we don't have to worry about that. Here at Heathrow they've got the purple signage which is for the connecting flights. If you go to the normal exit, you go through security and customs and you can retrieve your luggage. We don't have to do that, so we're going to follow the purple signage, and that will take us also through security and back into the terminal. British Airways has 3 levels of lounges here at Terminal 5 in Heathrow. So the first level is the Galleries Lounge. This is a business class lounge for everybody that is flying on British Airways or a One World partner in business class, or has a silver or the One World partner equivalent of that to access the lounge. Then there's the first class lounge, which is quite confusing, not for people traveling in first class, but for those that have the higher status tiers of the One World Airlines. So that is gold and above, and the equivalent of gold with the other One World airline partners. And finally, there is the Concorde room that is accessible for people that are actually flying in first class. Or have the very highest status with the One World Airlines. We have a gold status with British Airways, so we are heading towards the first class lounge. It tends to be very busy there. Our plane is departing from the sea gates, and that means for us that we have to go downstairs and take the train that is connecting the terminal buildings with each other, and in this case it's the second stop for us. Today's flight is a little bit special for me. It's the first time I'm going to fly on an Airbus A380. As you might or might not know, that is the largest passenger jet flying today. It's got 2 stories, so I'm really looking forward to experiencing that today. The business class seats on the A380 are still the old business class seats, not the new suites which you will find on the new aircraft of British Airways. I kind of like these seats when I'm traveling with my partner. I can look her in the face, I enjoy her company, we can talk with each other to kill the time. I do understand, of course, if you're a solo traveler, that it can be uncomfortable to have to look somebody in the face during takeoff and the landing.
Thanks for getting to the aircraft so promptly. I do apologise for our late departure as quickly as they could, so I do apologise for that delay. When we do get underway, it's flight time today.
The exit row, or in our first Club World cabin, the floor area must be completely clear for takeoff.
Well, cabin crew, please prepare the cabin for a video demonstration.
So this is the point where I, as a novice vlogger, learned a very valuable lesson. Always check your footage. The camera was focusing on the scratches of the window and not filming through it, so everything was out of focus. All the footage of the takeoff and the in-flight isn't sharp, isn't really usable, so my apologies for that. Mill review is the next part that is sharp, because that was shot with a different camera. None of the starters really appealed to me, but I opted for the poached prawn salad that came with some baby gem lettuce, avocado, and they described the sauce as a homemade horseradish ketchup. It was all prepared well, but I really didn't care much for this dish. Very uninspiring. There was a little beet salad on the side and this nice looking bread. My wife, as some of you know, has to eat gluten-free. She got a poached salmon with asparagus and a nice tomato salsa. It was actually very good, very tasty. Well done, British Airways, for this gluten-free starter. For my main course, I had the chicken stuffed with mushroom and kale. That came with some green beans, mushrooms, creamed potatoes, and jus. The jus was literally drowning everything else on the plate. I think I got a double portion or something. I never thought I would complain about too much jus, but this was the case. Still, it was a nice and tasty dish. My wife's special meal, well, it really looked horrible, as you can see, but it tasted actually very well. It was an undisclosed piece of fish with glass noodles and some vegetables, and the sauce is quite tasty, a little bit spicy, so maybe not as good as the starter, but still okay. I skipped the dessert and opted for the cheese, which I really tend to do a lot, as I don't really have that sweet of tooth. Then my wife said, well, maybe your viewers would like to see the desserts, so I'll do my best in future vlogs to also get the sweet dessert so I can share it with you. Cheese plate, I really always hope that sometimes they're going to surprise me with some nice cheese, but again, it really wasn't that good, but I did have a nice glass of port with it. Then my wife's gluten-free dessert showed up, and we thought, hey, this looks familiar. This is the dessert she got this morning in Club Europe. And this is the dessert we got last month traveling in first class. So there you have it. It doesn't really matter in which class you fly on British Airways. They don't discriminate. Everybody gets the same dessert if you have to eat gluten-free. It wouldn't be as bad if it was a nice dessert, but it really is as bad as it looks. I do want to end on a positive note. I think the meals we have had on British Airways in the last couple of years are really improving compared to how it was before then. So I do want to encourage them to continue this upwardly path. But, you know, really reconsider this generic food that you're serving in economy, business, and in first class to all the passengers that have to have special meals. You can do better than this. That concludes my first flight on the A380. It's amazing, that something this big with so many people on board can get off the ground, take us across the world and bring us there safely. Of course I understand the dynamics of flight. I do know how it works, but still it amazes me. It also amazes me how silent these planes have become on the inside. We were sitting close to two of these massive Rolls-Royce engines, and they were very silent. To be fair, sitting in business class, you could be sitting on any wide-body plane. Once you are in the air, you only notice the scale of it if you do a walk around the cabin. So I was prepared now for what was coming next. For those of you who have viewed my first class flight from London Heathrow to Washington Dulles about a month ago in real time, will remember that they had this strange bus things, as I think I call them. They are, I now know, a mobile lounge. They will take you from the terminal building to the main terminal building where customs is and the baggage reclaim. I also know now that Eero Saarinen, who you might recognize from my previous vlog on the TWA hotel at JFK, he designed that stunning building, and he was also the person who came up with these mobile lounges, which Washington Dulles Airport is using. Bit anxious as we arrive at passport control. Last time we had to wait over 2 hours in the heat. Today it's nice and quiet. It helps arriving in the evening. Last time we had planes arriving from China and from India at the same time as we did, so it was very busy. This time it seems that we are the only airplane, so the wait was quite short. We're traveling on tomorrow by car actually. I'm going to stay here at the hotel here at the airport. I don't think I'll be vlogging that as it's a basic Marriott hotel. I think everybody kind of can imagine what those hotels look like. They're not very spectacular, and it is late for us now. So for the first time viewers, I always try to review the flight and not the airline or in general, because every flight is different, the hardware is different, the food can be different, the crew is different, the ground experience is different. So I really try to be as consistent and just review the flight itself. So let's start with the seat and the cabin. I think everything was in good shape. The bathrooms were clean, the seat was clean. So all in all, a good experience. My thoughts on the seat is early in the vlog, so go back to that if you missed it. Food, I think BA is really improving on the food. There are some hits and misses in this meal, especially the dessert on the gluten-free side. I do think it's a shame that they are really serving the same, well, I call it slop because it is bad. You can do so much better things with gluten-free cooking than what they are presenting. And this is really just a money saver, and really not up to par in a business class, or as I've shown in this video, in first class even. We didn't see much of the crew, except for with the meal service. I think they were very professional and they did their job well, other than topping up my wine. I think they sort of missed that. But all in all, they are friendly and helpful if you do need them. The lounge, departure lounge, is also part of the trip. We stayed due to our status with the airline in the first galleries lounge. I must say it's just too busy in the lounge at the moment. We had to wait for a free bathroom. So not really impressed with the current state of the first galleries lounge at Heathrow Airport. I really hope that they're going to expand in the future, because this is really bad. Don't want to end on a too negative note. I think there's a lot of good things in this flight. I feel very lucky that we can do this flight in business class. But some of the negatives, those stick out a bit more than all the positives that we experienced, and there was a lot of positives that we experienced. So thank you for watching. Do like and subscribe and share this video. And please leave a comment, of encouragement for me, or if you have anything that you noted I missed in this vlog, or anything that you want to share with us, please do. Once again, thank you for watching, and bye bye.